if your brain ran like it was on turbo without the crash? Imagine a supplement that enhances your brain like never before. Meet the natural way to unlock clarity, focus, and energy. Zero in with Neuromain. Need balance and resilience? That's Dawn Light. Want energy and endurance? That's Radiance, Cordyceps mushroom extract, designed to support natural vitality, mental clarity, and everyday performance. Natural, vital, powerful. Your brain at full potential. Neuromain, Dawn Light, Radiance. Because life's too short for slow mode. Get yours now at monkeywerx.com.
All right. Hey, welcome to hour 2 of Monkey TV. Just kidding. Actually, welcome to the SITREP. It's going to be 8/28/2025, coming to you live here from the Monkey Lounge in the great state of Texas. And so today we're going to be talking about the swamp. That's right, AKA the brown zone. We're going to get into the deets of what's going on out there. I've got some things that I think could be quite interesting because I think there's something big brewing. And we're going to get into the deets around that. We're going to talk about leading up to it, and then we're going to talk about boots on the ground, and then we're going to talk about where I think it's headed and how you boost the boots on the ground to accomplish what may be the ultimate goal downstream. And so bear with me on this. We will, as always, kick it off in the skies and looking at U.S. military only up over the U.S., sitting around 390 right now, and I've stripped out 200 plus trainers. And then if you're wondering what the big yellow rings are, again, that's going to be the big, larger circle ones, going to be Intel balloons. And those are sitting around anywhere from 80 to 90,000 feet up. Maybe the lowest would be down around 60K, so way above commercial traffic. And again, those are eyes in the sky, right? Intel community, they're looking and listening to everything. So you can see just from the yellow rings on our screen that about 75%, 80% of the United States is covered up, and that's just what we see, okay? So anyway, if you live under those areas, just know they are looking and listening, all right? Okay, now next thing I want to show you, because this is a staggering number, let's talk 60s for a second. This is probably the highest number I've ever seen in terms of Blackhawks on screen. Typically, you get, we get a little bit of, some high numbers up here in the Panhandle, a lot of training activity. This one's a little light today, but everywhere else around the U.S., look at this. I mean, look at that. It's just like almost like a net. 105 Blackhawks currently up. All right. So you take that, mix in a little bit of Chinooks. All right. That gets us to 111. So the Chinooks are actually going to be those the banana-looking copters you see with the twin rotors, okay? Twin blades on top. And speaking of twin blades, then you throw in some V-22s. And look, you got quite the soiree happening down here on the southern end near the border. Again, you add those in. We're at 117 from a Hilo-type platform. Okay, so then we take those out. Back those away. And if you want to see what the refuelers are up to, KC-135s, I've got 30 on screen there, 767 Pegasus, 37 total. So that's 25s are baseline, a little higher than normal. Remember, this is a good indicator of fighter aircraft. And then we go to the E-2s. These are going to be the little Navy smaller footprint that fly around basically like an AWACS, right? They're advanced warning. But again, very small, take off and on and off of carrier decks. But notice down south, really out over kind of the coastline and water. And then up here near the Chesapeake into, around Norfolk, etc. Again, Navy platform. Now, one more Navy platform that is in abundance right now, which is really, really unusual. Don't see 4 up very often. But notice you got one on the left coast, one on the right coast, and 2 up right down the heart of the plate. Again, that aircraft is going to be what they call TACAMO, and that stands for Take Charge, Move Out, and it's talking to your nukes, okay? All right, let's see. Let's go ahead and get into the deets. Now, one of the things I will tell you as we get into all of this, what's going on around DC, I'm going to show you, we're going to lead up to it first, and then we'll talk to kind of the details around it. How was Trump able to do this to begin with? But I will tell you, it is a very, well, it's an unprecedented move, okay? Just not very common, okay, for him to do this. Speaking of uncommon things for him to do, look at this. Trump says that the Department of War is coming soon. So that's the DOD. It basically fragmented back in 1947 under Truman, and it went into all the different categories of the military, right? So you had, you know, Department of Army and Air Force, et cetera. So this is basically getting rid of the whole DOD piece, which is a kind of a defensive mechanism. When you start talking about Department of War, that means that's kind of an offensive approach, okay? So, again, you watch the world, everybody's saying peace and safety, but everybody, you know, they're speaking this thing, but they're doing something totally different, and that is gearing up for war, all right? I just want to point that one out. Now, let's go back in history a little bit, if you would. Just join me for this little quick mission back. You may remember that just as the inauguration was taking place, Flashbang, a.k.a. Biden, issues a preemptive pardon to a couple folks, all right? Absolutely, this guy and then a handful of others that really raised a lot of questions. But they basically said, oh, these are all the people that Trump is going to be going after. All right. And some of it goes back to that whole thing that happened right after the first of the year during his first term. Okay. I have to be very careful what I say. You guys know exactly what I'm talking about. But if I say it, boom, it's going to flag me 100%. It's like saying the other words that are out there that you're not allowed to talk about. Okay. Okay. Now, here we go. Starting out, Trump orders an investigation into Flashbang and his alleged use of the auto pen. Now, remember, the auto pen was what they basically said and came out and said that that's how these pardons were issued. So now Trump is basically saying, hey, look, based on, you know, they were trying to do it to cover up his cognitive decline, that is pretty well known now. And just everybody and their brother had them, okay? And so, but he's basically saying that, hey, the use of that makes everything void. Right, that he wasn't allowed to do that, or they weren't allowed to do that because the president didn't have any idea that was going on. Okay, that's his case. So he orders an investigation. So that probably will open the door to some of these other folks being held accountable. Okay, let's keep going. Then you have the FBI basically coming into the former National Security Advisor's house, John Bolton, in a probe to find classified records. Now, you remember they did this to Trump in Mar-a-Lago, right? Came in, went through all of his stuff, took a bunch of stuff out, probably found its way into the shredder because it was more than likely evidence that cooked every one of them, right? So, nonetheless, it is turnabout's fair play, I guess you could say, and you will see there is a trend here, okay? And then you've got him doing this. He calls for a major investigation into Harris's celebrity endorsements, saying that they paid, you know, millions of dollars for people to come out and basically vouch for her. They say that's, I guess, not allowed. Okay. So, all right, let's keep going. All right. Now, this is from May 19th. So you can see I'm just kind of traveling through a little bit of history, but this stuff is all relevant. All right. You're going to see this is a trend. And he also, on the 21st, just over a month ago, he calls for a particular senator, this guy right here, to be jailed. So he's in big trouble. Okay. So pay the price of prison, right? That's he should pay the price of prison. So this is talking about him falsifying documents, etc. Now, keep in mind that he's also going after one of the feds on that very similar things when it comes to mortgage loan stuff, right? Actually, there's quite a few people he's going after for those things. Right. And check this out. He's also calling, now this is yesterday, Trump calls for Soros and his son to face federal charges. And again, he's going for the head of the snake here with this one, and talking about should be charged with RICO because of their support of violent protests and much more throughout the United States. Yeah, we know this guy was behind all of it. I mean, people were getting paid to show up. And so, nonetheless, again, Trump's going after him, okay? And then you've got U.S. Attorney General orders a grand jury hearing on the Trump-Russia probe. Now, remember, this was also, there was a probe that happened back in 2017, 2019. Of course, the only people that got cooked during that one were guys that were around Trump. You later find out that he was surrounded basically by the enemy as well, right? But this tells you, okay, when you start pulling in a grand jury, that means they've got all this evidence that they're basically going to present, and then they will make a decision. You know, fast track, maybe 3-4 months, right? The grand jury will last about 18 months total, and then you can get a 6-month extension. But I think this will probably go pretty fast because, remember, there was stuff that already had been gathered by Durham and others, right? But nonetheless, again, one more thing, right? Pay attention to. Again, all of this stuff is alleged, okay, until there's nobody been proven guilty yet. But I'm just saying this is just reading the headlines because this is what they're telling us, all right? Now, Trump has called on former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi to be investigated for insider trading, okay? Again, alleged, but, you know, you can look at her portfolio and it outperformed most of the majors, okay? You know, this would not be the only person that has done something like this, allegedly, okay? You can probably pull in, if I'm a bet man, 90% of Congress is probably guilty of this, okay? So, you know, let's just see what happens here. But you see the trend, okay? So, all right, let's keep going because this is getting kind of interesting here. Now, you hear me talking about the Brown Zone. That's it right here, okay? It was formerly the Senior Living Center. But you get down into the weeds on this, and you'll notice there are TFRs on top of TFRs. So there's like a double layer right here, triple layer right here. This place is on lock, okay? And you've even got some unmanned drone stuff going out here when it comes to areas around maybe, you know, Camp David, et cetera, okay? Okay. Now, let me back it up a little bit, and you can see there are other TFRs just to the north. This will be more than likely Trump related as well. Unmanned drone stuff. Another, that's a low hanging one. That's a football stadium. Okay. And then danger boxes, right? That's because there is a major up tempo by the military off the East Coast and West Coast. Okay. All right. Now just take a look. All right, this was up till yesterday, but take a look at what's been going on around and inside the Beltway. Now, when you hear that term inside the Beltway, they're talking about this right here that goes around D.C. That's the Beltway. All right, and you can see, I mean, there's still stuff going on, but compared to what you would normally see, it's definitely a lot less. So I'll give you an example. Let's just take it back to the first... Second, I say that. Let me see here. These are just individual days. Okay, and then you can see, I don't know what this one was. Citizen robbed at gunpoint. So all inside the Beltway. Okay. Yeah, you can see. I mean, there's some days, but this is every day there's stuff going on inside this, all right? So you get down to, you know, the 27th. And you can see, I mean, it's still stuff going on. But 3 of these are announcements. In fact, check this one out. This is another one. Trump takes control over Union Station away from Amtrak. So he's now got the guard that handles that. And then let's see. We've got some big announcement over the stuff. Just happened yesterday in up in Minnesota. And then, of course, Secret Service Division detaining a man. We get out here, Arlington Police, same thing. So there's some arrests and stuff going on. But for the most part, inside the Beltway, you know, it's 3 of these are announcements. These are takedowns. Okay, so it has definitely lessened. Okay. All right. So let's go up here. And then Trump threatens complete and total federal takeover of D.C. So I've shown you all the stuff. He's calling for investigations. He's basically taken down or in the process of taking down a lot of bad actors, right? Okay, so, and many of the things that he says, they're layers. It's not just onesie twosie people. It's, you know, it goes pretty deep, right? So this he talked about on the 22nd. He said he's threatening a complete and total federal takeover of D.C. Okay. So then what happens, right? This is last week. Then you get into the deets around all of it. Now, so this is what has been deployed. So approximately since mid-August, 2,000 National Guard troops have been deployed since mid-August, around 800 from D.C. itself, okay? Plus additional troops from states like Texas, Louisiana, Tennessee, Mississippi, and others. On August 11th, the Trump administration invoked the D.C. Home Rule Act, Section 740, to federalize the Metropolitan Police Department and activate federal law enforcement across the city. So now he's got everybody called to duty, right? And then some, well, basically, you have to kind of look at the way this whole thing falls now, all right? So all of these players, all right, when it comes to all the way from local law enforcement up to, you know, the military, all right, they all fall underneath the same command and control. So that tells you, right, there will be, everybody has to follow orders now, okay? You can't have police departments standing off against other police departments, or, you know, the Capitol Police taking one direction when everybody else going a different direction. They all fall under the same command and control now. Everything from Secret Service, ICE, Homeland Security, everybody that's inside D.C. is now underneath the top, okay? So what do you do from there? All right. So the first thing Hegseth did was basically put guns in their hands, because you don't put them out on the street, especially in an area that's high crime, supposedly, right? You don't put them out on the street unarmed, right? You got to give them a means to defend themselves. Now, I do kind of find this comment funny right here, because these are actually they're M4s, all right? So they are ARs, okay? It's not, there's this misnomer about them, you know, when you say AR, and most of them, when you talk about these, people think that like AR-15 stands for assault rifle. It does not. It's Armalite rifle, okay? And so these are actual, I mean, these are assault rifles, okay? So anyway, this is just not accurate, okay? Similar to, no, these are actual, okay? So, but nonetheless, now they're armed, okay? And keep going. Now you're going to start to see that the left is freaking out, because they know something's up. So they're going to just start throwing everything at you that they can. So this guy basically comes out and says, National Guard is in D.C. so Trump can stay into power, all right? Needs to focus on Gaza. All right, that's this guy. Again, you're going to hear a lot of rhetoric, okay? Then you go over here. You've got, you know, this mayor now, you know, D.C.'s crackdown, not sustainable. It's costing over $1 million a day, right? So now they're going to point out, because if they can't trigger you from, you know, him basically becoming you know, a king dictator, now they're going to try and push the whole narrative of, It's costing too much money, right? Like, since when have they ever been worried about costing too much money, right? Just give me a break, okay? Let's keep going. All right. So what do? Right? You throw the guard in, you arm them, and then you start cleaning things up, right? You do that so that when you go on to the next phase of the mission, you may remember when Holman took over, and basically he's the border czar, okay? What did he say? First thing we're going to do, we're going to go after the criminals, right? We're going to take down all the bad guys, and then we'll be able to move around a little more freely, and we can start doing broad brush stuff and going after all the other stuff. Same thing applies here. You go in, you take out all the bad guys that you got to worry about shooting you while you're going down the street, okay? And then this one comes out, right? AG Pam Bondi announces 630 arrests, 86 illegal guns seized in D.C. So the cleanup has begun, right? And you can see here, 53 were made yesterday, plus 24 ICE arrests, 10 guns taken off the streets. That was total. Here we go. 86 seized, 630 arrested. And then you go over here, over 1,000 arrested as Trump makes D.C. safe again, okay? So, and the illegal gun count just keeps climbing, right? Now, we continue on down the path, right? And the other thing, too, keep in mind when we start talking about these people, he's calling for, these arrests and the probes and all the other things that are going on. There's some pretty big names in there, all right? Names that we have heard multiple times. I'm not going to say, just to make sure I'm clear, these are alleged, okay? But he's going after some pretty big names, and that is from ex-presidents to ex-secretary of states to all kinds of folks, all right? Now, let's say that you wanted to bolster the numbers. So first and foremost, you come into Washington, D.C. How do you get troops into D.C. and federalize everybody without raising eyes? Right? You say, we're coming in because of crime in the city. Now, I go back over here, right? You look at the crime. This was yesterday, okay? And we go back, and I showed you as we went across the thing, that was a heavy day there on the 15th, right? But you get back in here, okay? Has it changed that much? I mean, to justify a 2,000 guard, has it changed that much? Not really. I mean, it really hasn't changed that much. So, but let's say you want to bring them in and you don't want to raise suspicion. So it's kind of like saying, we're going to do an exercise in Southern California, right around Long Beach and LA, right? We're going to fly little birds, right through the city and Blackhawks. And you call it an exercise. So people go, oh, it was just training, right? So same kind of premise here, right? How do you get the guard in without everybody going, whoa, what's happening here? Something big's coming, right? You bring them in under the guise of we're going to cut back on crime. And so you bring them in, you start making arrests, you start locking up illegals and taking guns off the street and all the other stuff. And nobody's really raising an eyebrow, all right, except for the left because it's just Trump overreach, right? Doesn't matter. They're going to raise eyebrows on him no matter what. But remember, bad guys on both sides. What I showed you was a lot of folks that were on the left side. But believe me, you folks know there's rhinos on the right side that are just as bad as the folks on the left side. So this is going to, if he's going to take down and drain the swamp, he's going to be going left and right side. It's going to be, he's not going to be separating the sheep and the goats, so to speak. Okay. Now, how do you bolster what you have already on ground, right? Well, your next excuse would be, man, we got protest after protest coming to DC. And that is the case. Okay. So September in DC, there are like 5 major organized protests coming. Many of them are anti-Trump protests. So this one here, anti-Trump protesters plan mass Labor Day demonstration. Enough is enough. And so this is going to be over Labor Day. And you can see it's not just in DC, it's all over U.S. Like this one, I think you've got them in Chicago, New York. They're like calling on things nationwide. But this is just another thing, right? They're talking about more than 900 events planned in all 50 states and Washington, D.C. 900 events. So next, right? Anti-Trump protests planned across U.S. for Labor Day. We have to stop the billionaire takeover. And so they're basically saying Trump and all his billionaire friends. And, that, again, Labor Day, right? Then you've got this one. This is going to be the unions, right, taken to the streets in D.C. Let's see. Join us to kick off Labor Day 2025 with Solidarity season with a rally and march will come together. It's all in D.C. Okay. Now, there are also larger rallies planned for later in the month. I just pull this over on my screen here so you can see it. But basically, according to event listings, larger gatherings like the Juggalo March on Washington, that's September 16th, Mother of All Rallies, September 16th, Restoration Freedom March, September 18th, and March for Racial Justice and March for Black Women, September 30th, all scheduled, are scheduled at the National Mall and other major venues. So you can see that in addition to the ones I showed you, there's another 4 or 5 that are right on its heels or intermingled with that. So the month of September in DC is going to be pretty chock full of protests and marches, okay, rallies, whatever you want to call them. So you already got boots on the ground. You got 2,000. Then you see what's coming in the near horizon. You go, maybe we need to just keep bolstering and we just add to what we already have. All right. So then this leads me to why I think maybe there is something bigger cooking. Okay. Because if you are really wanting to drain the swamp, right, take down the brown zone, you're going to have to use the military. It's the only way, right? You're not going to do that through any other means. So you bring them in under the guise that there is, high crime. And then when you get that into play, you take out the bad actors, right? You start cleaning up the city. But then your next step would be to add to those numbers so that you have command and control of that entire area. So what do? Yeah, you let the protests be your catalyst, right? That's going to be what feeds. So you go, hey, look, we got all these things coming. We need to double, triple the numbers, boots on the ground. They start putting up barriers, whatever it may be. But then let's say, who's coming into town, right? You want them when they're all there. So look at this. After Labor Day, for a few weeks of work, before the next recess, which is Rosh Hashanah, okay, you're gonna have all of them in town, right? And then they're there because they're trying to get a continued resolution to keep funding going, right? So, which is way more than $1 million a day, by the way. But this, you start thinking about strategy, leads you up to. This right here, you've got Veterans Day, right? 11/11 coming up. So again, I feel like something big is cooking here. Does it take place at this spot? I don't know. But the stages are starting to get kind of set into place where you have to kind of take a step back and realize big picture. You know, I showed you, he's going after him. He's calling him out by name. He's calling for investigations. Bondi's doing it. And then what does he do? He comes in an unprecedented move, stands him up in D.C., takes over all of it in D.C. from a law enforcement standpoint. So if you were trying to clean things up, that's what you'd need to do. It's food for thought, folks. Let me know what you think. You know, I know we've all been waiting for this kind of thing to happen for quite some time. And, you know, we feel like everybody's made of Teflon and maybe it never does take shape. But I'd like to see what you guys think in the comments, you know. All right, listen, that's going to do it for our SITREP today. I hope you guys have a blessed and fantastic rest of your Thursday. For those over on Patreon, we'll see you in the live Q&A after this. And to everybody else, you guys keep that powder dry. Stay frosty. We'll talk soon. God bless. Monkey out.